Here. Let's go to Congressman Gonzalez, Democrat for the state of Texas, part of that House Problem Solvers Caucus. A concept that's interesting behind that caucus, an equal number of Republicans and Democrats, is to find common ground and get stuff done. Congressman, very good to have you. Thank you for taking the time. Where do you think this is going?
I'm confident that the Speaker will be able to bring the party together and that we'll be able to get this bipartisan infrastructure bill on the floor, I hope by Monday, and have the support we need to get it passed.
So when they were talking about, they've agreed on a framework. I think Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi were mentioning that, but they weren't attaching it to, say, a framework for the $3.5 trillion package, just a framework moving forward, I guess, on revenues. Am I to read anything, Congressman, in the fact that they didn't mention the $3.5 trillion, that maybe part of that framework involves a smaller or lower number?
Yeah, I agree that that's a very good possibility. I think 3.5 has been tough to swallow for at least a couple of Democratic senators, and we're going to have to keep negotiating and working through this to assure it's fair for everyone. I think most Americans can't argue that we should have the ability to send kids to community college tuition free, that we should be able to have Medicare pay for vision and dental and hearing care for our seniors, and for the first time in history, have Medicare negotiate pharmaceutical pricing for our seniors, and many other great things that are on this proposal. We just need to be careful that the pay-fors are fair and that they're not overbearing, for example, to our energy sector in America, and that they're not put it in a uncompetitive position when they're dealing with their global foes. So we want to be thoughtful that it's fair and reasonable for everyone, and that it's a win-win for America.
So the $3.5 trillion that you keep hearing, Congressman, is that rich to you? Too much for you? If you had a number, what would it be?
Well, my concern is how we're going to pay for it. I don't necessarily have a problem with $3.5 trillion that are being well invested on American ideals. It's we need to assure that the pay-fors are fair and that we're not unnecessarily targeting in a punitive way any one sector of our economy. For example, the energy sector in Texas. So that's a concern for me. But until we see the final literature, we're kind of just anticipating what's coming.
Meanwhile, on the border, the Biden administration has talked about stopping using horses and all of that along the border to catch those trying to get in. How do you feel about that?
Well, you know, clearly the footage that the American people saw a few days ago was concerning, but at the same time, without being on the ground and knowing the details of what was happening in that moment, it's hard to just pass judgment. Clearly, we're not going to be abusive to migrants or any human beings in this country, but at the same time...
Do you think they were abusive, Congressman? Because I just saw, guys with horse reins and, someone else trying to take the rein from him. And now, these guys are already taxed enough trying to apprehend individuals who do this, that now they can't use that.
Yeah, it is a very complex and tough situation that we're going to have to investigate, but we certainly need to find an orderly way to deal with the crisis that's happening on the border. My idea, as you know, has been to create a safe zone on the border of Guatemala and Mexico and have all migrants processed there and take the pressure off our southern border. I think that we need to start having creative ideas to solve the problem that we've been dealing with for years with administrations from both parties on the border. We need to have permanent assets somewhere where we can have asylum claims made further from our border and certainly be able to do it in an orderly process.
Do you think the numbers add up on the apprehensions of those from Haiti that we sent back 1,400 or so, and that there might be 4,000 or 5,000 remaining, but it doesn't add up with the many, many more thousands we suspect have been, let loose in the United States?
Yeah, well, I'm not for just releasing people into the country. I think we need to have a vetting process before they get here. And this is exactly why my proposal would resolve these problems. People should be asking for asylum.
Apparently, Congressman, we don't have a vetting process. If we're looking at just the math and these numbers and those who've been released in the United States, there are some reports that there was no vetting process, that they were just dumped here and not followed up.
I have a huge problem with that. And I vocalized this to the Trump administration, to this administration. We need to get this straight. We need to get the House in order. We need to get our border in order. We need to have an orderly process that's humane and fair. And I think the best way is for people to start doing it in their home country or create a safe zone further down, like the border of Mexico and Guatemala, and process them there. Until we come up with these ideas and actually implement them, we're going to continue struggling on our southern border.
All right, Congressman, thank you very, very much. We'll be monitoring, as I'm sure you will, Congressman Gonzalez from Texas.